Rachel sat alone at a table tucked in the corner of a quiet restaurant, soaking in a rare moment of peace. With her 3 kids off at her parents' house, she could finally exhale and exist without demands. A heavy mix of frustration and disappointment sat in her chest like a stone. Once again, her husband Daniel had been called into work over the holidays, another broken promise. Thanksgiving had already been a mess. He'd pulled back-to-back shifts, blaming the ongoing health crisis. Now, with several co-workers out sick, their family plans had completely unraveled once more. He's always working, she thought with a bitter edge. Never here when I actually need him. And yet he has the nerve to complain when I take the kids and go to my parents. Her spiral of resentment was suddenly interrupted by a warm, unfamiliar voice. Mind if I join you? She looked up to find a well-groomed man with dark hair and a confident, easygoing smile standing beside her table. You look like you could use some company, he added with a gentle charm. Rachel hesitated, surprised that her mood had been so transparent. She gave a slow nod, not entirely sure why. He took the seat across from her and extended a hand. Ethan Blake. Rachel Morgan, she replied automatically, her voice almost detached. His smile deepened. Rough night. Just a few days later, Rachel found herself waiting in the park, watching for Ethan. After she'd poured out her frustrations about Daniel's endless absences, Ethan had been the one to listen, really listen. Then he'd casually suggested they take a walk sometime. She'd tried to decline, told herself it was a bad idea, but in the end, she said yes. Now, as he approached with a familiar, knowing look, she felt a flicker of anticipation. He took her hand and brushed her knuckles with a feather-light kiss. Shall we? He asked. She didn't pull away. Instead, she allowed him to link arms with her, and they began to stroll through the park like an old couple. In the days that followed, Ethan gradually took up more and more space in her thoughts. Their talks stretched longer, their meetings became routine. What began as friendly venting had clearly morphed into something else. There was flirtation now, sly compliments, a quiet intensity, something unspoken forming in the space between them. One Saturday night, Rachel lounged on the couch, scrolling through her phone when a message popped up. Ethan, hey gorgeous. What are you up to? Rachel, just watching a movie. Ethan, let me guess, he's working again? Rachel, yeah, like always. Ethan, and you're still doing everything on your own. He doesn't deserve you. Ethan, you sure he's even working right now? Rachel, what do you mean? Ethan, if it were me, I'd double-check. Just saying. Her stomach twisted as she stared at the screen. Doubt crept in like a draft through a cracked window. Should she try calling him? An hour later, her phone rang. Daniel's name lit up the screen. Hey, he said, his voice laced with concern. You called? What's wrong? Are the kids okay? His tone made guilt bloom in her chest. She had called his office earlier. No answer. Everything's fine, she said quickly. I just wanted to hear your voice. But you weren't there. He let out a breath. I was dealing with a flight delay on the platform. Left my phone in the locker. They spoke briefly, awkwardly. After hanging up, the unease didn't fade. If anything, it deepened. Why hadn't he answered right away? As the days passed, her doubts grew like mold. Quiet, persistent, and hard to ignore. 3 months later, Daniel navigated the congested airport traffic after another grueling stretch of overnight shifts. At last, he had some time off, a chance to breathe, to reconnect with his family. But when he got home, it was empty. No kids. No wife. After another blowout fight, Rachel had packed up and taken the children to her parents' place again. They had everything they needed, a paid-off home, no car loans, even a growing college fund for the kids. Daniel had done his best to create a stable life. But somehow, none of it ever seemed good enough for Rachel. Exhausted and emotionally numb, he collapsed onto the bed. When he woke hours later, his stomach growled, so he went for a long, hard run through the woods to clear his head. 2 hours later, back at home, showered and fed, he finally sat down to sort through a week's worth of mail. Most of it was junk. But one envelope, elegant and cream-colored, caught his eye. A strange chill ran through him as he opened it. The contents made his heart stop. It was a memorial announcement for him. In loving memory of our former husband and cherished father, Jonathan Daniel Morgan. His eyes locked on the names printed at the bottom, Rachel Morgan, Ethan Blake. The room spun. So this was it. This was why she'd been cold, distant, constantly on edge. picking fights, casting blame, slipping away more often. The betrayal hit like a freight train. But instead of exploding, Daniel swallowed the rage. He knew he needed to stay sharp. For the next few days, he buried his emotions. Rather than confront her, he made a choice. He would return to Tai Chi, something he had abandoned long ago for Rachel's sake. It was time to reclaim some peace, to sharpen his focus before taking any action. After an intense session, his thoughts still raced as he came home. He picked up the funeral card again, and this time, the fury came roaring back. Enough. He powered on his computer, his resolve steely. It was time to learn everything he could about Ethan Blake. Meanwhile, miles away, Rachel pressed a kiss to Ethan's cheek before he left, completely unaware of what Daniel now knew. Watching from the second-floor window, Elaine Carter felt her gut twist. She had suspected her daughter was drifting into dangerous territory. But now, there was no doubt. She turned to her husband, Richard, and sighed heavily. If this keeps going, we're going to end up with a divorced daughter and 3 grandkids growing up without their father. Richard's jaw tightened. You think she's really seeing someone else? Elaine nodded slowly. I'm sure of it. I have to speak with her. You'll just make things worse, Richard warned, frowning. How hard should we push? Find out who this guy is, Elaine said firmly. I'll start digging. Richard paused. How far are we prepared to go? His face hardened as he came to a decision. If she's cheating, she's on her own. No money. No lawyer. No help from us. Elaine pursed her lips. And if she leaves Daniel? Richard's voice was cold. If she wants to move back here, she'll be paying rent like anyone else. And she'll need a job, Richard added bluntly. Then, with a pause and a sharp glance at Elaine, he said, also, I had them sign a prenup. If she cheats, she walks with nothing. No house. No custody. Elaine's eyebrows shot up in disbelief. You what? Richard exhaled, shaking his head. I didn't trust Daniel at first. Thought he'd disappoint her. But I was wrong. He's decent. Works hard. I'd hate to lose him because of her. Back at his desk, Daniel typed Ethan Blake into the search bar. Within moments, results poured in: posts, tags, photos. The guy had no concept of privacy. Daniel's pulse picked up as he scrolled through the digital scrapbook. There they were, Rachel and Ethan, side by side in multiple pictures. Smiling, laughing, leaning into each other like they were a couple on vacation. It was all public. Daniel clenched his jaw, heart pounding. He saved the photos one by one, each one another blow. It didn't matter whether they'd slept together or not. Rachel was gone. She had emotionally checked out of their marriage and into something else. The next morning, her text arrived. Rachel, spring break is here. I'll be staying with my parents for a bit. Daniel stared at the message, fingers tightening around the phone. His reply was short. Daniel, all right. I'll grieve our marriage in silence. Rachel read it quickly, lips curling into a half-smile. She rolled her eyes and typed back. Rachel, come on. Don't be dramatic. You'll be too buried in work to notice I'm gone. Then she stopped, uneasy. Grieve? That word made her pause. Was he suspecting something? Had he seen something? She typed another message quickly. Rachel, it's nothing serious. Just harmless flirting. Nothing physical. Yet. But if you keep pushing me away, who knows what might happen? Daniel read her response, jaw tight. He didn't reply. Instead, he picked up his phone and calmly called the legal department at work. I need a referral for a family lawyer, he said. It's urgent. At the Carter house, Richard and Elaine entered the kitchen, tension written all over their faces. Rachel glanced up from her phone. You both look awful, she said, annoyed. What's going on? Richard didn't wait. We're exhausted because we've been taking care of your kids while you sneak around behind your husband's back. Rachel's eyes widened in shock. Dad, what? That's not true. I'm not sneaking around. Elaine's voice was quiet but firm. I saw you, Rachel. Yesterday. With him. Who is he? Rachel's face flushed. His name is Ethan Blake. It's not serious. We're just talking. Richard's laugh was bitter. Talking? Is that what you're calling it now? Rachel's tone turned defensive. What do you expect me to do? Daniel's never home. He's probably cheating on me anyway, and I don't even have proof. Richard slammed his palm against the table. Daniel works himself into the ground for you and those kids. He breaks his back just to make sure you're taken care of. His voice grew louder. I handle his pay. I see the stubs. He's been putting in 60, 70, sometimes 80-hour weeks. And this is your response. He shook his head. You're betraying a man who's sacrificing everything. You've completely lost perspective. Elaine reached for his arm, gently calming him. Let your father cool off. You and I need to talk alone. Rachel looked between them, frowning. There was something unspoken going on, something she didn't fully understand yet. The next morning, Daniel sat in a sleek, sterile law office, his back straight as he waited. The firm was well connected through his company, and they'd scheduled him an urgent consultation. A young woman walked in. I'm Jenna Price, legal assistant. Can we review some details before Mr. Abrams arrives? Daniel nodded silently, sliding a file across the desk. Inside were screenshots, chat logs, and the funeral card, the one that felt like the final blow. Jenna flipped through the document slowly, then paused. Her expression hardened. She excused herself and stepped out into the hallway. Leaning against the wall, she swallowed hard. Years ago, she had betrayed her own husband. Daniel's pain mirrored the regret she carried every day. After a long breath, she wiped her eyes, pulled herself together, and returned. That evening, Elaine sat across from Rachel at the dining table, her eyes unreadable. You know, she began, your father and I didn't get here easily. We made a mess of things before we ever got it right. Rachel frowned. Why are you telling me this? Elaine sighed. Because there's something you don't know. We were both cheaters once. Rachel stared. You cheated. Not on each other, Elaine clarified. We destroyed our first marriages before we ever met. Rachel looked stunned. Elaine continued. I cheated on my first husband. I was lonely. Someone paid attention to me, and I gave in. When he found out, I made excuses. But I lost him. Then I met your father. He was married. I pursued him. When I got pregnant, he left his wife for me. Her voice grew quieter. Between the two of us, we wrecked 3 marriages. And even now, after everything we've built, we still carry the damage. She leaned forward. Trust, once broken, never fully heals. Even decades later, there are cracks. Rachel's shoulders slumped slightly. Her stomach twisted. There's still time to fix this, Elaine said. But only if you act now. Rachel hesitated. We haven't slept together. Not yet. Elaine watched her carefully. Go on. Rachel looked down. We met a few months ago. It started innocent. I was lonely. He paid attention. I told Daniel I needed space, but the truth is, I lied. There's been kissing. Some touching. Over clothes. That's all. Elaine didn't move. Her silence was heavier than any words. Rachel finally whispered, I don't know what to do. You have 2 choices, Elaine said calmly. Walk away from your marriage, or tell Daniel the truth and try to fix it. If you don't choose, we will. Rachel stared at her, realizing there would be no mercy if she stalled. Elaine's final words were sharp. He deserves the truth. And if this ends in divorce, just so we're clear, we stand with him. Not you. Rachel's breath caught in her throat. Fine. You've made your point. Her voice was tight, the edge of pride still clinging to it. Good, Elaine said flatly. Then you know where we stand. Pulling out her phone, Rachel tapped into the shared family calendar. A thought flickered to life. I promised the kids we'd go to the zoo, she murmured. Daniel's on morning shift Saturday. I'll take them, and afterward, I'll go home. I'll tell him everything. The next morning, she packed up snacks and jackets while the kids buzzed around her, full of excitement. But beneath her calm exterior, her thoughts raced ahead to the moment she'd have to face her husband. As they climbed into the car, Chloe asked softly, Mom, when are we going home to see Daddy? Rachel frowned. He's working, sweetheart. Same as always. Chloe hesitated, then Noah spoke up. But we do see him. Even when he's busy, he helps us with homework and dinner. He comes to our games. You're the one who barely talks to him. Chloe's tone turned gentle. We know you're mad at him. But why? Rachel's shoulders stiffened. I'm not mad. Chloe rolled her eyes. We see it, Mom. You shut him out. You act like he's not even there. Rachel gripped the steering wheel, her chest tightening. Chloe wasn't done. Is this about his job, or about Mr. Blake? Rachel's breath hitched again. What? Did you know Dad might be getting promoted? Chloe's voice was sharper now. That stopped Rachel cold. What promotion? Chloe looked away. Of course you didn't know. You don't talk to him. Rachel's mind spun. Promotion? That was the first she'd heard of it. Chloe lowered her voice. We love Daddy. Noah does. So does Ella. Rachel blinked fast, her eyes stinging. Noah leaned toward Chloe. See? She's treating us the way she treats Dad. Chloe nodded grimly. And he finally gave up. Rachel tightened her grip on the wheel, her children's words rattling inside her. At the zoo, the kids had a blast, laughing, running, full of joy. But Rachel drifted through the day like a ghost. Her mind stayed elsewhere. Her phone buzzed over and over with messages from Ethan, short, insistent, and impatient. Eventually, she snapped and fired back. I'm with my kids. I'll reply when I have time. After that, silence. Later that evening, as they returned to her parents' house, Daniel's last text echoed in her mind. I'll grieve our marriage in silence. Guilt twisted inside her. Then the doorbell rang. She rose to answer it, her thoughts foggy. At the door stood a young man in uniform. A thick envelope rested in his hand. A body camera blinked steadily on his chest. I need to speak with Mrs. Rachel Morgan, he said, voice firm. Her stomach dropped. That's me. What is this about? I'll need to verify your ID, he said. Still confused, Rachel retrieved her driver's license and handed it over. The man examined it, recorded the handoff, then passed her the envelope. You've been served, he said. Have a good night. As he walked away, she heard him mutter, well-deserved. Rachel stood frozen, then tore open the envelope. Inside was a typed letter from Daniel. Rachel, the way you ended our marriage was cruel. I should have known something was wrong the moment you started spending more time at your parents' and stopped looking me in the eye. You'd already made up your mind. If you had been honest, we could have separated like adults. But you chose lies instead. I've requested paternity tests. The prenup your father made us sign will be enforced. I even did something I never thought I would. I created a Facebook account. Your boyfriend made sure every moment was documented. Tell him thanks. You are no longer welcome in my home. The locks are changed. You can collect your things by arranging it through your parents. I don't want to see or speak to you directly. And that joke you made about mourning our marriage? Humiliating. If the children are mine, we'll discuss custody separately. Daniel. Rachel let out a strangled cry, hands trembling. Richard entered the room and saw the divorce papers in her lap. His face was grim. Ethan Blake, he muttered, his voice thick with contempt. Easy to track. He's destroyed more marriages than I can count. And now you're just another notch in his belt. He dropped a folder on the table. I looked into him. His salary is half of Daniel's, and that's not even counting hazard pay. And still you believed him when he said Daniel didn't provide enough. Rachel turned pale, stomach roiling. Richard's scowl softened just slightly as he saw her distress, but only slightly. Elaine walked in then, her eyes catching on the legal documents. No, this can't be real. Richard picked up Daniel's letter and read it aloud. Elaine's face twisted with rage. Rachel, what did you do? She snapped, voice rising. Do you even understand what's happening? I didn't ask for a divorce, Rachel whispered. I never said I wanted that. I was going to talk to him. Tomorrow. I was going to beg him to forgive me. She sank into a chair, pale and shaking. Then something shifted behind her eyes. A flicker of stubbornness. No matter what Daniel wrote, she said firmly, I will talk to him. I know I was awful, but I never asked for any of this. I never joked about burying our marriage. Richard and Elaine exchanged a glance, tired, resigned, knowing. They'd seen Daniel's patience over the years. If he'd gone this far, he might not come back. We need a strategy, Richard said finally. If you go in alone, you don't stand a chance. Meanwhile, Daniel pedaled home on his bike, the evening wind brushing against his face. His thoughts churned, torn memories and bitter truths. The papers had been served. That much was done. A tear slid down his cheek. He wiped it quickly and turned off the main road, slipping behind the house. He changed into a tracksuit, hoping a run would help clear his mind. As he moved toward the mailbox, he noticed a shape on the front steps. Opening the door, he froze. Elaine sat there in the cold, shivering, waiting. Daniel, Elaine said, her teeth chattering. Can I come inside? I need the bathroom. I'm freezing. He paused for a moment, then stepped aside. Go ahead. After using the restroom, she returned looking slightly more composed. Daniel silently led her upstairs and started drawing a warm bath. Can you manage on your own? He asked. I'll try, Elaine murmured. Thank you. If you need anything, call me, he said, already walking off. I'll grab you something dry. She slowly lowered herself into the bath, feeling the heat loosen the tension from her body. Her thoughts wandered to Daniel, how he had helped her in without question, carried her up the stairs, drawn the bath without needing to be asked. Even after everything, the man still had a heart. But she hadn't come here to get comforted. She had a mission. Once she was dry, she dressed in the clothes Daniel had left for her. They were his baggy, warm, and oddly comforting. A faint smile flickered on her face despite everything. Downstairs, she found him in the living room, seated beside his open laptop. Spread around it were damning photographs and a beige envelope. Daniel's tone was level, but his eyes were cold. "Why didn't you wait in the car? Why sit out there in the cold?" Elaine met his gaze. "Because I knew you wouldn't open the door. This way, you had to let me in." Daniel leaned back slowly. "So you figured being inside would force me to listen?" She nodded. "Exactly." He exhaled. "Rachel had issues with my schedule. I won't say she was wrong about that. But if she'd just talked to me, if she'd been patient, she'd still have a husband. And not just that. I was being promoted. Head of the department. No more night shifts. 1 weekend a month. A raise. But every time I tried to tell her, she tuned me out." Elaine sat stiffly. That revelation shifted everything. "I need to fix this." She studied him carefully, sensing the rage just under the surface. "Daniel," she said gently, "was it the photos? Is that what finally broke it for you?" He didn't answer with words. Instead, he handed her the envelope. As she unfolded the letter inside, she could feel the depth of Daniel's pain radiating from every sentence. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "We didn't raise her to be this cruel." Elaine's voice trembled. "This is beyond disrespect. When I get back, I swear She broke off in a fit of coughing. Daniel rushed over, placing a hand to her neck. "You're burning up." She tried to protest, but he ignored it. "Lie down. I'm calling a doctor." He lifted her without hesitation and carried her back upstairs. Searching through a drawer, he grabbed the digital thermometer Rachel had insisted on years ago and checked her temp. 104, he muttered grimly. He called the clinic. Thankfully, they had a doctor nearby and agreed to send someone out immediately. 15 minutes later, a woman arrived, introducing herself as Dr. Amina. She looked to be in her late 30s, around Daniel's age. "I'll need to examine her," she said. "Can you step outside?" Elaine rasped. "No. He stays." The doctor blinked, then nodded. "All right. Daniel, I'll need your help lifting her shirt. I need to check her lungs." Daniel left briefly and returned with a sleeping bag to keep Elaine warm. As he helped her, he couldn't help but notice, just for a moment, how much she resembled Rachel. The thought stung. "I thought I'd grow old with her," he thought bitterly. After the exam, the doctor gave her diagnosis. Acute pneumonia. "She'll need tests later, but for now, I'll prescribe meds." Elaine shook her head. "No hospitals. Just the meds." Daniel nodded and was out the door in minutes to get them. When he returned, the doctor promised to follow up the next day. Daniel called the Carter home. Rachel picked up, heart jumping at his name. "Hey, Daniel, you're calling late. I need to speak to Richard. Wake him if you have to." Startled, she passed the phone to her father. Richard's voice came on. "I'll be there in 3 hours. Let me pack." Turning to Rachel, he said, "Your mom's got pneumonia. Daniel handled everything. I'll bring her clothes, then take care of her while he works." "I'm coming too," Rachel said quickly. Richard shook his head. "No. First, the kids need you. Second, Daniel doesn't want you there." "But it's my house too, eh?" "No, it's not," Richard said firmly. "It was his before you got married. The prenup says that once papers are filed, you're no longer a resident." Tears welled up in Rachel's eyes. Richard sighed. "I'll help you pack." Once he left, Rachel sat on the edge of the bed, trying to make sense of everything. Her marriage had shattered, and she couldn't pinpoint the exact moment it had slipped away. Ethan hadn't caused it, but he'd accelerated the damage. Even though nothing physical had happened, she knew she'd crossed a line. But how had Daniel found out? She paused before messaging Ethan. Her parents were still at Daniel's house. They could help her understand what pushed him to file. She decided to wait. When Richard arrived at Daniel's, he checked on Elaine first, relieved to see she was resting more comfortably. Then, as he stepped into the kitchen, he noticed something on the table. A card. He picked it up, his breath catching. Funeral paper. For Daniel. Without hesitation, he called Rachel. "I'm texting you a photo." "Explain." There was silence on the line. "Your mom's stable. The doctor's checking in tomorrow." "But this," he said, "this card is how Daniel found out." Rachel opened the image and stared in horror. It was a funeral announcement. Her name and Ethan, name printed as if Daniel were already dead. Now it made sense. Ethan did this. She had been a fool. She called Richard, voice trembling. "I didn't agree to that. I didn't even know. I would never." "You should have known better," Richard said coldly. She didn't argue. She knew he was right. Miles away, Ethan picked up the phone, finally getting the call he'd been waiting for. Glad you reached out, he said smoothly. How are things? Rachel's voice was flat. Not good. My parents know. My mom's sick with pneumonia. Ethan sounded indifferent. Pneumonia? How'd she manage that? She was soaked and freezing, waiting outside. He smirked privately. Perfect. The more distance between her and her parents, the better. That's not why I called. Rachel cut in. I need to see you. Absolutely, Ethan said, trying to contain his excitement. Wednesday work? No. Meet me at Maggie's Grill. Noon. He smiled. Perfect. Everything's falling into place. Meanwhile, back at the house, Elaine's fever finally broke. Elaine was still weak, but there was fire behind her eyes. She wasn't ready to let this marriage fall apart without a fight. Sitting across from Daniel, she said softly, This is between you and Rachel, but she hasn't even tried to contact you. And you haven't seen the kids. Daniel's jaw tightened. That's her decision. Richard sighed. You were working hard, sure. But when things started crumbling, she didn't come to you, she ran to another man. Daniel's voice cracked. I gave everything I had. And she cheated. I can't live with that. Elaine winced at his words. Daniel's tone dropped, filled with bitter restraint. We vowed to stand by each other. Through the hard times, too. Richard and Elaine exchanged a pained look. They had once betrayed their own spouses. Now their daughter had repeated that pattern. She says it didn't go that far, Elaine offered quietly. They didn't sleep together. Daniel let out a sharp, bitter laugh. So that makes it fine? You think the way she treated me these past few months doesn't count because they didn't have sex? Elaine flinched. That's not what I meant. Richard tried to step in. Give yourself time. Cool off. Look inward. Daniel shook his head. Rachel will say whatever helps her case. Richard spoke up. She knows Blake sent that funeral card. It scared her. She never wanted things to go this far. Daniel scoffed. Right. I'm good enough to pay the bills, but when it's time for affection, she needs someone else. Elaine's expression hardened. Now you're being unfair. Daniel's hands clenched, but he reined in his anger. Richard and Elaine exchanged worried glances, concerned he might explode. I couldn't do anything right for months, Daniel said, his voice raw. Now I might lose my kids too. She's probably poisoned them against me. Richard nodded. We'll find out what she told them. Daniel narrowed his eyes. What do you mean by that? Richard stood up. Let's ask her. Right now. Daniel looked doubtful, but before he could object, Elaine cut in. Put her on speaker. Tell her Daniel's listening. If she lies, it's over. Only truth will save her now. Richard nodded and made the call. Rachel answered quickly. Hey, Dad. How's Mom? Elaine jumped in. Getting better. The fever broke, but I'm still wiped out. Daniel's here. We have some things to ask. Rachel's heart skipped. Hearing his name brought a flicker of hope. Daniel. I love you. I was so incredibly stupid. I'm sorry. Her voice cracked. Daniel didn't reply, but Elaine saw the glint of moisture in his eyes. Richard cut in. What did you tell the kids about the divorce? Rachel's voice faltered. On the way to the zoo, Chloe asked when we'd go home to see Daniel. I snapped and said it didn't matter. He was never home anyway. Daniel stiffened. Rachel inhaled shakily. Then Noah. God, Noah called me out. Both of them did. They defended you. It felt like they ganged up on me. I lost it and threatened to leave early. Her voice broke. Then Chloe said it, right to Noah. She said I treat them the way I treated you. That whenever you tried to talk, I shut you out until you gave up. She sobbed softly. After you talked to me, Mom, I already knew I was in the wrong. But hearing Chloe say it, that's when it hit me. I wrecked everything. I haven't even told the kids about the divorce, but they already know. They know I'm the one who broke it. Silence fell. Then Elaine asked gently, Rachel, what's your plan with the kids? Daniel misses them. Daniel shot her a glare. What are you doing? Trust me, Elaine whispered. She turned back to the phone. Rachel, any thoughts? The kids need stability. Their school, their friends. They need their dad. Keeping them away just makes things worse. Rachel hesitated. I can bring them to him, but he's always working. Elaine glanced at Daniel. Then he'll need a nanny. Or maybe their mother could stay with them. Daniel's jaw tensed. He didn't like being maneuvered. Elaine squeezed his hand gently. Stay calm, she whispered. After a long pause, Daniel muttered, I don't like it, but I'll consider it. The call ended. Daniel turned toward Elaine, sarcasm coating his voice. So, ready to go? Elaine blinked. You mean now? Daniel nodded. Tomorrow morning. You've stayed long enough. I won't be pressured, especially not with my kids used as leverage. Elaine's eyes filled with tears. That's not what I meant, she cried. I just wanted you to spend time with Chloe, Noah, and Ella while Rachel tried to fix this. She doubled over in another coughing fit. Richard quickly pulled her into a hug, looking at Daniel with quiet desperation. Daniel swallowed hard, shaken by her sobs. I'll think about it, he said quietly. But this pressure isn't helping. He rubbed his face. Tomorrow's my last shift. After that, I start the new job. Take the house keys. I'll let you know what I decide. That night, Daniel barely slept. By 4:30 a.m., he gave up and made coffee. He packed his lunch and sat in silence, thoughts spinning. He heard soft steps. Elaine appeared, pale and exhausted. You look awful, Daniel said. What are you doing up? I couldn't sleep. I pushed too hard. I see that now, she said quietly. Daniel exhaled. You made me look at myself, Elaine. And I realized something. Walking away without even trying would be just as selfish as what Rachel did. Elaine's breath caught. Daniel, what are you saying? I'm furious, he admitted. But I owe it to myself to at least try. I can't quit without trying. He held up a hand. But don't tell her. These papers aren't easy to undo. When you get home, give her the keys. She can come back, after the holidays. Elaine nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I need to see my kids again, Daniel added. But for now, she stays in the guest room. Elaine embraced him tightly. She has no idea how lucky she is, she whispered. I'll tell her myself, Elaine said gently. Daniel offered a tired smile. Do it soon, or I'll be late. At Maggie's grill, Ethan strutted in with practiced confidence, quickly spotting Rachel at a table tucked into a corner. She's probably worried I found out about the card, he thought smugly. Perfect. He leaned in close, flashing his most charming grin. You know you're stunning, right? Rachel didn't even blink. We'll eat. Then we'll walk. The park's quiet. Ethan's eyes narrowed. I don't like your tone. Too bad, she said coolly. Now you understand what my husband lived with for months. The meal was eaten in silence. Ethan stewed, trying to figure out how to win back control. He wasn't about to lose Rachel. She was difficult, and that made her a prize. But Rachel had a different goal in mind. Later, back at her parents' house, she explained everything to Richard and Elaine. Elaine still carried guilt over pressuring Daniel, but that changed when Rachel revealed she wasn't there to fall back into Ethan's arms. She was setting him up. She wanted payback. I'm confronting him, Rachel said. Not as a partner. As an enemy. Richard was wary. That's risky. If Daniel finds out you saw Blake after he let you back in. Rachel nodded. That's why I'm taking this, she said, accepting the small voice recorder Richard handed her. At the end of lunch, Rachel stood, grabbed her coat, and walked out, leaving Ethan to pay the check. He cursed under his breath, paid quickly, and chased after her. Just outside the restaurant, he caught up. You can't just leave without saying anything, he snapped. Rachel didn't even glance at him. She was already activating the recorder. Let him get angry, she thought. Let him show his true colors. They reached the park. Rachel sat down on a bench while Ethan hovered too close, placing a hand on her shoulder. Don't touch me, she snapped, pulling out a printed image and shoving it at him. Explain this. Ethan barely glanced. That? Your marriage was dead anyway. I just made sure your husband faced it. I gave him the truth. Told him who the real man was. Rachel's eyes narrowed. Funny, I don't remember saying any of that. Ethan faltered. We both knew where this was going. I needed comfort, not a wrecking ball, Rachel said, standing. This ends now. I'm saving what's left of my marriage. You nearly ruined it. Ethan's expression shifted, turning syrupy and smug. Oh no, it's not that easy. Your marriage is barely hanging on. You'll do what I say, or I'll cut the thread myself. Rachel's face twisted in disgust. Blackmail? Really? Call it what you want, he sneered. Give me what I want, and maybe I'll keep quiet. Otherwise, I tell Daniel about today. Rachel scanned the park, noting the security camera nearby. Ethan mistook her silence for submission and leaned in again, eyes greedy. Without hesitation, she shoved him back and sprayed him straight in the face with pepper spray. Ethan shrieked, staggering forward blindly. You'll regret this, he shouted, raising a fist. She hit him with another blast, this time directly in the eyes. Then, with a swift motion, she drove her knee into his groin. He crumpled with a groan, and she followed it up with a knee to the face. Ethan collapsed, groaning, hands clutching his face and stomach. Rachel stood over him, adrenaline surging. What did Daniel always say, she muttered. Fight dirty when you're outmatched. She gave him one last glare. We're even now. Come near me again, and I'll finish the job. She walked over to a nearby ice cream stand, where the owner offered her a cup of tea. That was something else, the woman said. Thanks, Rachel replied, steadying her breath. Do you have security footage? I've got it on a flash drive. It's yours, just cover the cost. Rachel handed over a 20. 10 back, the woman said. Tease on me. You might have just saved your marriage. Rachel offered a faint smile. I really hope so. Still trembling from the confrontation, she pocketed the flash drive and made her way home. Thursday afternoon, Daniel biked home in high spirits, humming a tune. Weekend. A long, quiet weekend, he said aloud. His new position was going well. The team respected him, the chaos was settling, and he was already helping others grow. It felt good. Rachel would be back soon, maybe. He hadn't decided. If she truly wanted to make things right, she'd need to prove it. He'd done his part. Now it was her turn. He changed into casual clothes and started preparing dinner. The house was quiet, peaceful. Then ding-dong. 2 police officers stood at the door. Good afternoon, sir. Are you Daniel Morgan? I am, he said cautiously. Is everything okay with my wife? My kids? No, sir. We're here to place you under arrest. Felony assault on one Ethan Blake. Daniel blinked. Excuse me. You'll need to come with us to the station. Can I turn off the stove? My dinner's still cooking. You've got 5 minutes, one of them said. Daniel stepped back inside, grabbed his phone, and quickly called Richard. I'm being arrested. For attacking Blake. I need help. What? Richard snapped. Where are they taking you? I don't know yet, probably downtown. I'll figure something out, Richard muttered, already moving. Just then, Rachel burst into the room, her face drained of color. That was Daniel on the phone, wasn't it? What's going on? Richard turned, his voice tight. He's been arrested. Rachel's face turned grim. No, that was me. Richard froze. What? Blake tried to blackmail me, she said, her voice shaking. Then he got aggressive. I fought back, used what Daniel taught me in self-defense. Now he's turning it around and blaming Daniel. Richard's jaw clenched. Unbelievable. I can prove it, Rachel said, her voice firm. I've got the recorder you gave me and CCTV footage from the ice cream stand. I'm pressing charges for assault and blackmail. And Daniel? Richard asked cautiously. First, Blake, Rachel replied. Then I'll deal with Daniel. I'm packing a few things and heading to the station. At the police department, Daniel endured the full intake, fingerprints, mugshots, DNA swabs. With each step, frustration bubbled closer to the surface. Eventually, he was led into a bleak room where a detective eyed him like a predator. Tell me your version, the man said, voice sharp. Daniel leaned forward, irritated. Can I quote the Bible or should I wait for my lawyer? The detective narrowed his eyes. Just answer this. Do you have an alibi? Daniel gave a dry, humorless laugh. For what? You're interrogating me without counsel. You realize that's illegal, right? The detective sneered. Tell me why you assaulted Ethan Blake. Daniel froze, then smirked. Oh, I get it. You're friends with him. The man's face tightened. Daniel leaned in. I know who I'm dealing with. I just can't say it. Wouldn't want to insult an officer of the law, right? The detective slammed his fist on the table. Put him in a cell. Hours later, Daniel emerged from holding dazed, disoriented. His lawyers, Jenna and Ben, were arguing with the sheriff near the front desk. Rachel sat nearby, arms crossed, jaw tight. Can we go now? The sheriff snapped. Not yet, Ben replied, cool and controlled. First, you're wiping Daniel's record clean. Second, my client here, he gestured at Rachel, has proof Blake fabricated the entire story. She's filing charges. Third, you're about to be buried in misconduct complaints. The sheriff clenched his jaw but knew better than to argue. Fine, he growled. By the time Rachel drove Daniel home, night had fallen. He didn't say much. As she parked in the driveway, she turned to him. I know I don't deserve it, she said quietly. But I didn't send that funeral card. I never slept with Ethan. And I don't want this divorce. Daniel sat in silence, processing her words. She added, more gently, when do you want to see the kids? He sighed, weariness etched in every line of his face. You're not driving back tonight. Use the spare room. We'll pick them up tomorrow, together. We'll talk on the way. Rachel gave a small, relieved nod. I'd like that. I'm exhausted and starving. I'll throw something together, he said. They sat at the table, eating quietly. Conversation turned to the children. Rachel confessed, Chloe and Noah, they noticed. They told me how distant I'd been toward you. If two teenagers could see it. I must have been awful. Daniel nodded. You were. Later, as she stood to leave, she hesitated. I'm going to bed. I'll see you tomorrow. Then softer. Can I have a goodnight kiss? Daniel looked at her, startled. Now? After months of silence, after you ignored me like I didn't exist? You want to kiss the same week you got me arrested and served with divorce papers? Rachel opened her mouth to answer, but Daniel cut her off. No. We talk tomorrow. Not tonight. I'm too tired and too angry. I'm having a drink. You can join me if you want, but it's not about us. It's about the kids. She sat down, subdued, looking down at her wedding ring. Tears filled her eyes. Dutch gin? She asked. I'll have one. They drank in near silence. Rachel told him how the kids had scolded her during the zoo trip, especially Chloe. If they saw how cold I'd become, she said, then it must have been worse than I thought. It was, Daniel said flatly. After a long silence, Rachel rose. I'm going to bed. The next morning, Rachel wandered into the kitchen and stopped. Someone had already brewed coffee. A bowl of oatmeal waited in the microwave, made with soy milk, just the way she liked it. It nearly broke her. He still did this for me? An hour later, Daniel returned from a morning run. Sweat clung to him, his shirt damp, his breathing steady. As he walked past her, Rachel's eyes caught bruises on his torso, evidence of grueling workouts, and the leaner, more defined frame he'd built. Back to Tai Chi? She asked, trying to keep her tone light. He glanced down at himself. Shouldn't have stopped. You look good, she admitted. You've changed. Daniel's face darkened. You have no idea how much. The silence between them thickened. I'm going to shower. We'll talk after, he said. On the drive to her parents' house, Daniel finally broke the quiet. So, why were you really at the station yesterday? Rachel exhaled. Because I'm the one who pepper-sprayed Ethan. I kicked him. Broke his nose. Daniel looked sideways at her, half impressed. You broke his nose? Yep. And he screamed like a child. Daniel cracked a smile, brief but real. Then his tone shifted. Were you going to let me take the fall for that? Rachel shook her head. No. He tried to force himself on me. I fought back. I'm filing a complaint. Your lawyer's helping me, and everything Dad found on him will bury him. Daniel nodded grimly. Good. That man deserves worse. There was a long pause. Then Rachel whispered, What about us? Daniel's grip on the steering wheel tightened. What do you mean? I know I was horrible. I acted selfishly. I forgot what you were doing for us, for the kids. Daniel's voice broke a little. If things were that bad, why didn't you talk to me? Did I seem unapproachable? I've been going over every moment, trying to figure out where I went wrong. Rachel's eyes welled with tears. You didn't. It wasn't you. He gave a bitter laugh. Chloe, I worked too much. Chloe, I should have said no to those extra shifts. But I was trying to give us security. A future. And it cost me everything. No, Rachel said firmly. Let me tell you where I went wrong. Let me explain everything, Rachel said softly. Daniel glanced at her briefly. He saw the regret in her eyes, but didn't speak. She took a breath. Her voice trembled. I was overwhelmed. You were working so much, those long hours, the evening shifts. I felt completely alone with the kids. I was doing it all myself, and it started to wear me down. She paused, wiping at her face. One of my friends made a joke, called me Rachel the Fool, said I was doing all the housework while you were out playing hero. And it stuck. I started believing it. I started feeling like a fool. Daniel kept his eyes on the road, silent. What they didn't see, she continued, were the late nights, me putting the kids to bed alone, the empty seat at the table every night. And then the pandemic hit. You were gone even more. Working on holidays. Thanksgiving broke me. When you said you had to work that day, I snapped. I dropped the kids at my parents' and just disappeared into distraction. Daniel's grip on the steering wheel tightened. That's when Ethan came into the picture, Rachel admitted. He saw me at my worst. Told me you were probably cheating. He fed my insecurities until I started believing him. I was stupid. I can see that now. But at the time, I thought I had a reason. She looked at him carefully. You remember when I called you during that platform emergency? I was already spiraling. He had his hooks in me by then. Daniel nodded once. Yeah, I should have handled that better. I left you hanging. Rachel's voice dropped. It almost went too far. He grabbed me once. My mom caught us. If she hadn't, I don't even know. Daniel's jaw clenched, his arms rigid. She reached across, touching his sleeve gently. Daniel, I swear, I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. I want to be someone you can believe in again. I've already started looking for a counselor. I should have done it a long time ago. Daniel looked at her, surprised. Who told you to do that? Chloe and Noah, Rachel said quietly. They told me I needed help, that I was acting crazy, and they were right. Daniel exhaled, his voice low but steady. All right. Then tell me, what is it you want now? Rachel blinked. Do I need to say it? Yes, Daniel replied. You treated me like garbage. You lied. You let another man into our life. If your mother hadn't intervened, who knows where it would have ended? So don't assume anything. Say it. Rachel swallowed. He had every right to demand clarity. I want to be your wife again. I want to come home, not just physically, but emotionally. I want to be part of this family again. I want the man I lost when I lost myself. Her words hung between them. Daniel gave a bitter laugh. That's not happening. Rachel's heart sank. I'm not saying I want the divorce, he continued, but if you're waiting for me to pretend nothing happened, or to believe this is just some bump in the road, don't. And for the record, I know the funeral card wasn't your idea, but the damage was already done. Then what do you mean? She asked softly. Daniel kept his eyes forward. I've thought about this a lot. I know I worked too much. I know I wasn't there, but I was doing it for us. I pushed past my limits for you, for the kids, for the future. And still, it wasn't enough. He paused. I've changed. I got promoted. 4-day work week, no more night shifts. I tried to tell you. You weren't listening. Rachel blinked. You got a promotion? Yeah, Daniel said flatly. But you were too busy leaning on Ethan to care. I stopped being enough for you. I was awful to you, she said. I was selfish. Daniel didn't argue. After a long moment, he spoke again. I made vows. For better or worse. To love and honor you. And I meant them. He glanced at her. But the woman I said those words to, she left. Rachel's eyes welled up. I want to stay. I want to fix this. Daniel sighed. If that's what you really want. She had braced for him to shut her down completely. For divorce. For nothing. But instead, he gave her a sliver of hope. She reached for his hand without thinking. The car veered sharply. Careful. Daniel barked, jerking the wheel as they swerved and skidded before correcting. The road was thankfully empty. Rachel let out a nervous laugh. Like our marriage, I need you to help steer me back. Daniel didn't laugh. You don't get to joke right now, he said. This isn't a clean slate. There will be rules. Some you might not like. Rachel nodded. Okay. We'll talk to your parents, he added. My parents? She asked, confused. They're involved. Your mom cornered me. Manipulated me into considering this. She means well, but it pissed me off. Rachel lowered her head. That's why they left early. Exactly. The rest of the drive was quiet. A soft radio song filled the space between them. When they pulled up to the Carter's house, the front door flew open before Daniel had even unbuckled. Dad! Chloe shouted, running toward him. Noah! Ella! Daddy's here. She threw herself into his arms. Noah followed, nearly tackling him with his hug. Little Ella wrapped herself around his leg, beaming. Daniel held them tightly, breathing in the scent of their hair. He hadn't realized just how much he'd missed them. Inside, everyone settled in the living room. Before Daniel could even speak, Noah blurted, Does this mean you're not divorcing Mom? The adults froze. What? They all said at once. Chloe crossed her arms. Come on. You think we're dumb? Mom ignored Dad for months. Then we had to live here. And she made us call some guy Uncle Ethan. We figured it out. Silence. Rachel's face flushed. She turned to her kids. You're right. I was incredibly stupid. I know your father and I have a long road ahead, Rachel told the kids. And I'll do everything I can to show him I've changed. She looked at Chloe and Noah, her voice softening. You two were the ones who made me start seeing clearly. Thank you. She pulled them into a hug, voice trembling. Please forgive me and help me make this right. Later that afternoon, with Ella at a neighbor's house and the teens upstairs, the 4 adults gathered around the dining table. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. It's time we had a real talk. Rachel hesitated. Can I start? Daniel nodded once, expression neutral. She took a breath. I could say, I'm sorry, 100 times, and it still wouldn't undo what I did. So I'll say it once. I'm sorry. I'll spend as long as it takes trying to earn your trust back. I want to be the woman I was before I let everything fall apart. Daniel's face gave nothing away. I said this in the car, but I'll repeat it here, especially with your parents present. I'm not going back to how things were. Richard and Elaine tensed. I'm done bending over backwards to meet every emotional whim, Daniel said firmly. I did that for years. I lost myself in the process. That version of me? He's not coming back. Elaine hesitated. So, does that mean you're walking away? No, Daniel replied instantly. I'll try to rebuild. But Rachel has to earn back the right to be my partner. What she burned took years to build. There's still love left, but I'm doing this for the vows I made and for the kids. Rachel looked down, quietly absorbing his words. This Daniel wasn't soft. He was centered, direct. She wondered if she could ever reach his heart again. Daniel continued, the divorce will be finalized in 5 months. We'll see where we are then. If we both still want to keep trying, we stop the process. If not, I won't fight you. But you might want to find a lawyer. Richard and Elaine exchanged glances. Rachel's chest tightened. He wasn't bluffing. As for now, Daniel went on, I work 4 days a week, 6 to 4. 1 weekend shift a month. No overtime. I'm home by 5:30. Period. Then came the part Rachel feared. You'll stay in the guest room until we figure out whether this marriage still has a future. If it does. She flinched but nodded. Daniel wasn't done. The lifestyle changes I made while you were gone, they stay. Tai Chi, structured routines, time with the kids. They're learning to defend themselves now. I want them strong, secure. Despite the sting, Rachel felt a strange relief. At least they'd be under one roof. I'll put in the effort, Daniel said, leaning forward. But the moment I see you slipping into old habits, shutting down, pushing me away, we're done. No second warnings. You'll go back to your parents. Rachel bit her lip. Then, slowly, she said, you matter to me, Daniel. More than I knew, more than I was willing to admit. But after Mom, Dad, and even the kids held me accountable, I couldn't keep lying to myself. She looked him in the eyes. I'll work as hard as you do. Clobe harder. I have more to make up for. Her voice softened. And thank you for not slamming the door in my face. For letting me try. Daniel searched her face, the vulnerability in her eyes. Whatever he saw made him nod slightly. All right, he said. We start here. Call the kids. Let's go home. That night, after settling in, they sat at opposite ends of the couch. Daniel stretched. Got anything in mind for this weekend? With the kids. Rachel looked up, surprised. Wait, you're off. He smirked. Better get used to it. 4-day work weeks. She smiled, tentative. Picnic at the lake? Clobe rent a canoe. Sounds good. She hesitated, then added, one more thing. Let's make a deal. Daniel raised an eyebrow. What kind of deal? That we never leave without saying goodbye. And when someone comes home, we always say hello. No more silent treatments. No more pretending things are fine. Daniel exhaled. Deal. Rachel stood, then slowly stepped closer. She leaned down and kissed him gently. Thank you for giving me a second chance. I love you. Good night. Daniel sat still as she walked upstairs. His eyes followed her for a moment. Then he sighed and looked away. Months later, Daniel took the kids to a weekend Tai Chi retreat. Rachel stayed behind with her parents. Sitting outside a local ice cream shop, she updated Elaine. Blake got 6 years in prison and a $10,000 fine, Rachel said. Restraining order, too. He's gone for good. Elaine exhaled. Finally. And you and Daniel, she asked. Rachel looked down. It's quiet. We're not fighting. But there's no affection. No kissing. It feels like a platonic marriage. Elaine raised an eyebrow. Nothing? Rachel blushed. He reacts physically. I hugged him last week, and, well, let's just say I noticed. But then he just patted my back and walked off. Elaine smirked. So what are you going to do about it? I don't know. But I know one thing. I'm not giving up. Elaine studied her. You're thinking about this the wrong way. What do you mean? You're waiting for Daniel to take the lead again, aren't you? Rachel looked down. Yes. Well, maybe, Elaine said slowly. He's waiting for you to show him you still want him. Clobe in his mind. You're the one who walked away. Rachel's eyes widened. You think so? Oh, I know so. If I were you, I'd rip his damn pants off. Rachel laughed, her cheeks burning. Mom, I'm serious, Elaine winked. Let's go shopping. Shopping. The kids are staying with us next weekend. You and Daniel will have the house to yourselves. Rachel bit her lip, intrigued. Okay, so what's the plan? Start small, Elaine said, leaning in. Sunday morning, get up early. Make him breakfast before he leaves. Rachel wrinkled her nose. He gets up at 4:45 a.m. Then you better set your alarm too, Elaine said with a sly grin. Tell him you're adjusting to your new schedule. Make it feel normal that you're the first thing he sees in the morning. Rachel nodded slowly. Okay. And after that? Friday night, Elaine said, smirking. You go all in. His favorite dinner, sushi. Feed it to him with chopsticks. But when he reaches for the third piece, hold it between your lips instead. Rachel's eyes widened. Oh, I like that. Exactly, Elaine said with a wink. Once you've got his attention, you reel him in. Make him remember who you are. Rachel's doubt melted into determination. Daniel doesn't stand a chance. Elaine laughed. Not if you do this right. Rachel's heart raced. I'm going to win back my husband. By the end of that week, Daniel had grown surprisingly fond of waking up to Rachel's breakfasts. He hadn't expected to enjoy that kind of routine again, but he did. It grounded him. Until Friday morning. He stepped into the kitchen and froze. Rachel stood there in a silky, midnight blue dress that clung to every curve and shimmered under the light. It hinted rather than revealed, but the suggestion was enough to short-circuit his thoughts. Soft stockings hugged her legs, and for reasons he couldn't explain, the fuzzy slippers somehow made her 10 times more irresistible. You look, he swallowed. Incredible. What's the occasion? Rachel smiled. You are. Consider this a preview of what's coming. The kids are staying with my parents this weekend, and I'm coming for you. Daniel's breath caught. He could barely think. This is really happening. Rachel stepped closer, voice low. Yes, I want you. Not just the man I married, but the man you've become. After everything you've endured from me, you've become even more extraordinary. She kissed him softly. It was sweet, slow, and familiar in a way that made his chest ache. He barely had time to process before she kissed him again, this time with a playful smirk, then turned. I have to go change before the kids wake up, she said lightly, glancing over her shoulder. Daniel rode to work in a fog. His mind was all over the place, half anticipation, half caution. Could he trust this? Could he trust her? At lunch, he messaged her. I'll be home late. Need to think. Going for a trail run after work. See you around 10:30. Rachel stared at the message. Was she too forward? She tried to ease into it, make her intentions clear, but maybe it was too much, too soon. Later that evening, she found him at the door, lacing his shoes for the run. She opened her mouth to speak, but couldn't. She just watched him. He looked incredible, broad-shouldered, leaner than before, that new strength honed by discipline and silence. Even the gray streaks at his temples made him more striking. Then he peeled off his boxers to change, completely unbothered by her presence. Her mouth went dry. Oh God, help me. He wasn't bulky, he was carved. Like someone who trained for control, not vanity. Rachel fought the urge to reach out. Wow, she whispered. You look amazing. Strong. Beautiful. Daniel turned, caught off guard, then flushed. Rachel laughed, the tension cracking between them. He laughed too, for the first time in weeks. His run lasted longer than usual. He needed time, clarity, solitude. Was he better with Rachel, or without her? Somewhere around mile 5, the answer came. It struck fast and clean. The next morning followed a similar rhythm, except for one key change. Rachel greeted him in a loosely tied silk robe that barely clung to her. Every step, every reach, shifted the fabric just enough to drive him mad. When she leaned for the coffee pot, it parted slightly, revealing nothing underneath. Daniel's breath caught. Rachel saw the effect and smiled, feeling heat rise through her chest. I'm alive again, she thought. I need a cold shower, she murmured. Otherwise, the kids are going to walk in on something they'll need therapy for. She kissed him, long, slow, and purposeful, then disappeared upstairs, leaving him groaning. At work, Daniel couldn't concentrate. Her voice, her scent, the look in her eyes, none of it would leave him. He left early. When he stepped inside, Rachel ran into his arms, tears streaming. I found the flowers you sent, she cried, hugging him tight. They arrived early. You made me so happy. He wrapped his arms around her. I figured they might. She nodded, wiping her tears. My parents came to get the kids this morning, right? Yep, Daniel said. We've got the house to ourselves. Rachel smiled. Good. I'm a total mess. Daniel smirked. You're the most beautiful mess I've ever seen. She rolled her eyes. You're such a fool, Daniel Morgan. He grinned. That's Mr. Fool. Thank you very much. Oh, and by the way, I ordered sushi. You're banned from doing anything tonight. Except, maybe, one thing before bed. That night, after a drawn-out dinner and gentle teasing, they finally made love. The next morning, Rachel woke sore but glowing with happiness. She reached for Daniel, but the bed was empty. Of course, he was already up. She wandered into the kitchen and wrapped her arms around him from behind, pressing her body to his back. Her hands slid lower. Daniel groaned. God, woman, are you trying to destroy me? Rachel giggled. Oh no. If you go near me again, I'll snap in half. He laughed and guided her to the table, pouring her coffee. Still want to move today? Rachel shook her head. No way. You kept your promise. You completely wore me out. Daniel smiled. Good. Let's enjoy our day. Just the two of us. She reached for his hand. Let's. But I was thinking, what do you think about counseling? To help us really reconnect? He studied her face, then smiled. I think that's a great idea. Rachel lit up. Then we're doing it. 1 year later, on Rachel Fool's Day, Rachel stood in the kitchen preparing a massive feast. Chloe peeked in. Mom, why are you making all of Dad's favorite foods? Rachel smiled. Because today's not just Rachel Fool's Day for us. Chloe frowned. Then what is it? Rachel leaned in and kissed her daughter's forehead. It's our Fool's Day. Because if your father was a fool for forgiving me, then I'm the luckiest woman alive.